Well, welcome into the Mentor Forge podcast. Got a great guest today, Marino, coming all the way from Yankeeville, Long Island. I'm excited, y'all, to hear his accent. But Mark, thanks for coming in today.
Cartwright, it's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be on the Mentor Forge podcast. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yeah, Mark's with Awaken Your Wellness Now, and we're going to definitely dive into his many years of experience with physical therapy and helping people be aware of their wellness. But Mark, I usually like to start with just the really kind of your early upbringing, your background. What's and so like, yeah, I know something I thought of, and I was coming in today, I usually like to get to our influences, but growing up, what was one of your earliest fun favorite memories?
Well, for me, I grew up in a family of 7, so I'm one of 7.
Ooh, wow.
Yes, I am in the middle child of 7, and my father was a teacher, and is still healthy now at 82, and as a teacher, he had his summers. And even though he worked a job one summer, when I was 12 years old, we went cross country, and we used to camp a lot, because when you have 7 kids, camping is your vacation, because it doesn't cost that much and you're not going to resorts. And, so I did a lot of camping, and that instilled a love for nature and a love for outdoors. And I'm a big time hiker. I do a lot of hiking up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, and pretty much everywhere I can go. And that summer we spent 2.5 months with 9 people in a van. We had one of those extendo vans with the extra section on the back, and it looked like one of those moving vans, and and we had a camper, and we traveled all around the country and went to almost every national park you could imagine, where it came to Pikes Peak, Mount Rushmore, the Grand Canyon, Mesa Verde, Grand Tetons, Yosemite, all those. And just that's just a love for nature, and it was one of my fondest memories, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, you could tell that in your own personal brand. If you could check out Mark on Instagram, he's got videos in the woods, and he's talking, and just this calming voice.
I get back to my meditative state when I'm on trail. For me, my solitude, my mindset kind of sets when I'm out in nature and hiking on a trail, without a doubt.
Oh man, that's so good. Of all the national parks, would you say one stood out to you as your favorite?
I'd say probably up to this point, Grand Tetons.
Yeah.
Grand Tetons. Now, I'm also lucky enough, my wife's Norwegian, and we go to Norway every 2 years. So we've done some really cool, like we've done some hut to hut hiking above the tree line.
Yeah.
In the national parks in Norway too. So they're up with my top now is doing my my adult hikes. And also Mount Washington. I've done Mount Washington about 7 times, and hiked up in the presidential range up in New Hampshire. So that's got to be up there too.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful places. Norway. Wow. I can imagine with those long days. Oh man.
Oh, it's amazing. The summer, like where we live, where we have a little house down there that's been our grandmother's house for 60 years. It stays light out until 10, 11 o'clock. It's dark for a little bit, and then it's light out again.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Wow. So Mark, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing, travel, getting outside, a level of just moving your body growing up, so who kind of would you say was your big influence in shaping, a lot of your desire for health, and even as a man, who shaped a lot of your mindsets early on?
Yeah. For me, I'd say probably my biggest influences were, one, my parents, because they were such a great example of people that led their lives with, love and focus and helping other people. And, I also played college football. I'd say a college coach was also a big influence. And also my mentor when I was when I graduated and I got involved in my advanced training in manual therapy, I'd say the mentor that I was under, and he took me under his wing, and I learned a lot from him. That was Greg Johnson, and just amazing. Those 3 people just kind of leading my way and what my mindset and what my focus was.
Yeah. So you played college football. What position did you play?
I did. I was an outside linebacker, kind of standing D end, outside linebacker, depending on what the defense was. And it was, I loved it. It was great. I didn't necessarily know I was going to play college football. And then, my two junior and senior year in high school, it kind of became evident. And I said, hey, if I can do it, I'll do it. And I went to a small Division III school. I got recruited some Division I, but I knew that wasn't realistic and I might not play and I'd probably be redshirted and, who knows, so,
Yeah.
D3, I went all 4 seasons, played all 4 seasons, was captain my senior year, had a great time. It was just fun.
Yeah.
Fun experience, but it wasn't the end all and be all, but yet you got to experience the really high level football where, in high school, if you're all county or all state, that's one thing. You go to college and everybody's all county, everybody's all state. And the difference between D3 and D1 is they're just a lot fast. They're a lot faster,
Right.
which is, I was fast for D3, but slow for D1.
Right. So, what about your 4 years of experience in college and playing football? What was some of your biggest takeaways from there?
That for me, I love sports because sports are a great, microcosm for life. I mean, it teaches discipline, focus, teamwork, concentration, all the things that kind of go into the things that we need in real life, but we don't always know it until we're out in real life. And you'd be like, and all of a sudden you have to do something and you have to be repetitive about it and you have to do it every day, or, you have to focus on something you're doing for your life. And you learned a lot of those things in high school and college sports, whether it's, wrestling, basketball, football, soccer, whatever it is, any sport. I really, truly believe that it helps people, be a better person. I mean, if you didn't play sports, it might be something else like music. It might be something else you're into, whatever it is. I think that makes a big difference in your life. So that helped me a lot as I got out. And I think it helped make me the person that I was. And my son now, to see my son now playing football in high school, it's exciting. So my youngest is 17 and playing high school football. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Is he a linebacker too?
He's a D end. He's a D end, just kind of worked out that way. So now he's kind of hitting his growth spurt and he's almost 6 foot and he's getting close to my height. And it's like to see another large man in my house. I have 2 older girls.
Yeah.
But to see another large man walking around my house, it's like, hey, you're getting in the way. What are you doing?
Yeah. So, why are you looking me in the eye? This is
he sizes me up. He sizes me up every day.
That's great.
And he reminds me that he's growing taller every day and I'm shrinking a little bit every year. Absolutely.
That's good. So, so you left college, played football, great experience. And then what propelled you to the next thing? What did you do after college?
I decided to go to graduate school for physical therapy. And that was a big change because I didn't decide until after I graduated college. I was definitely one of those who was, although, sports was great and it kept me disciplined, and I still didn't have the clarity on what I wanted. And I found that the year I graduated from college. And so then I went back and got some more, the pre-med sciences, and I ended up going back to another 3 years of school and got another bachelor's and another master's in physical therapy. And that changed my life. Met my wife in graduate school and we've been married almost 25 years now. Hard to imagine. And next month. But yeah, so a lot of things. That was also a major aspect of my 20s when I was in graduate school. Again, changed my career because then I became a physical therapist and also met my wife. So that was huge changes. And
so what happened in that year that caused you to shift to, because what did you end up getting your degree in originally?
Well, my degree was it was a liberal arts degree, but I had a major in business and a minor in psychology and philosophy. And so yeah, interesting, right? So I get out and I worked for, let's call it a financial company, insurance, financial services. And very quickly within 6 months, I'm like, I do not want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I locked in and I said, at least I recognize that because there's a lot of people who do phenomenal in that line of work. And there's very many people that they're extremely successful and this is what they do and they love it. For me, it wasn't me. I don't know if it was sitting behind a desk that was not was right for me. I wasn't active. So for me, I said, okay, if I'm going to go back, and I'd always been interested in physical therapy. I had torn my ACL in high school. So I had physical therapy a number of times. And so for me, that was a major aspect for me. I was like, I'm really interested. If I'm going to do it, let me do it now. And then, so I became a therapist when I was 28. So for me, although it was a little delayed, it was a big difference. And I had, at least I had the mindset to recognize the clarity and change my course because a lot of times we get stuck in things and say, hey, I have to do this. And you get a
Yeah.
job, let's say in your 20s, and you'd be like, well, I can't move. I'm supposed to do this. This is the way my parents did it. I'm supposed to stay at this job for 20 years. Although that doesn't happen as much anymore. People move around more
Yeah.
freely. And thank goodness for that. So we can all make changes, to our lives in ways that are in the direction that we want to find clarity in. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I mean, that is kind of a constant theme. I think with my generation, and even especially the one behind me, is just like, yeah, our parents did it this way. And we think that because that's all we've seen, that's we think it's success. And then we
Mhm.
get in it and we're like, no, I want more variety. I want,
Right.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
but man, good on you. Just, I mean, even just 6 months in of just going, wow, I need to do something different. This is not what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what about physical therapy that stood out to you that went, oh man, this is
Well,
what I
for me,
want to do?
it was getting it myself. It was an active job. I got to work with people. I got to work with my hands because I was always somebody who liked to work with my hands, and got to work one-on-one with people. Now there's all different aspects of
Mm,
physical therapy, and you can do, rehab, acute care, traumatic brain injury. You could do pediatrics. I got interested in outpatient orthopedics because I got
mm,
to work with athletes, which is what I was. So I specialized in a very kind of niche manual orthopedics where you do all hands on. And that's what I studied even further after I got out of grad school and got advanced certifications in that, and ended up teaching for a national institute for about 10 or 15 years. And then I was also an adjunct professor at a local university for
mm.
their advanced spinal mobilizations class. So it helped me to lock in. And because I got to focus so much time one-on-one and also teaching,
Yeah.
that's kind of something I gravitated towards. So whether you're teaching one-on-one with a patient or you're teaching to a class, it's very similar.
Well, and so what about teaching? That was really big for you.
Oh, I loved it. So again, it's that one-on-one, it's instruction, it's in
Mm,
instructing and helping people learn something that they didn't know before, and seeing that aha moment that people get when they're like, oh, I didn't know that, or they
yeah.
understand something that they didn't understand before. So that is, to me, and maybe it's natural in my family genetics. My dad's was a teacher for 40 years. He taught foreign languages and taught Italian, French, Spanish, and I have a brother who's a teacher and an administrator. Another brother is a teacher. Another brother-in-law who's a teacher. So it's kind of it's into our
Yeah.
system. So I kind of always gravitated towards that, which is, again, now even when I'm doing this online and I do my online courses, it's instruction of another form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, that's really
yeah,
cool.
without a doubt.
And especially just now, because I mean, it's crazy just even all the information we're finding out about the human body and how much that is just needed.
Oh
People
yeah.
need to be taught how to understand their body, how things work, how to deal with pain,
Hmm.
how to get past pain, all that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll get into that. But yeah, so I mean, you sounds like you I mean, I think it's obvious as we're standing right here and you got that your logo behind you, but making that change was very beneficial. You met your wife, you got into physical therapy, you got to do the things you want to do. But is there one thing you would tell that guy, that 25-year-old you that you know now? What would you like to tell him?
Is focus on your mindset, because your
Yep.
mindset is key, and I'll tell you more about why that's true. And
Mhm.
is try to get clarity on what you want. Try to focus on what you want, and get clear about where you want to go, because it's not always easy when you're 20s. Your 20s, you don't know. I mean, I think there's
Mhm.
a small percentage of people that are lucky enough to know what they want from the time they're 10 years old, and they've always wanted to be, let's say, a doctor, or they've always wanted to be this or that, or a lawyer. And they just have that clear focus all the way through, and they know exactly what they want, and they stay with that. And that's wonderful. But for a lot of people in their 20s, I don't want to say it's lost, but you're head down as you're doing what you're doing, but you really don't know what you want to do.
Mm.
And there's a famous quote that says, if you don't know where you want to go, you can get there by any road. Meaning, like, you're just going to go around in circles, and you have a tendency to, like, be on a treadmill that you're moving and you're doing things and you're going fast, but you're not getting anywhere.
Right.
And what happens is that's when you're not sure and you don't have clarity about what you want to do. And so I think if I could say to myself in my 20s, it would say, if I understood better earlier what I wanted,
Mm.
that would have made a big difference. but isn't that what it's all about? I mean, that's what that's what you're talking about in your awesome podcast. And that's what, I talk to my clients and my patients about is what do you want? What's your focus? Where do you want to go? And once you know where you want to go, then you can figure out the how. Then you can say, okay, I want to go here. There may be some detours, there may be some speed bumps, there may be some blockades in the way, but if I know where I want to go, I can get there one way or the other. I can get there right through those barricades. I can go around them. I can detour for a little bit and then get back to it. I can modify it and get there, but I'm going to get there.
Yeah, that's good, Mark. Wow, that's really good. So speaking of detours and bumps, what was kind of your big detour bump that happened to you that really kind of changed your life, was a really life altering thing?
Yeah. So for me, it's still in my 20s. I graduated from physical therapy graduate school. So I was technically a physical therapist already. And then in the same week that I graduated, I was in a friend's car, passenger seat. A friend turned across traffic. And the last thing I remember were blinding lights and screech. And boom, I woke up 3 days later in a trauma hospital. And I find out later that the fire department had to cut me out of the car because the car T-boned us right where I was sitting, and wow. I was folded up in the car and had a bad head wound. I shattered my leg in 8 places, and so they had to cut me out of the car. I wasn't sure I was going to make it, so helicoptered me to the local trauma hospital. I had a 9-hour surgery with 2 blood transfusions, 2 long rods in the length of my leg, 6 screws, 4 cables, a plate, 14-inch scar on my hip. I fractured my back. Didn't walk for 6 months and was out of work for a year. So my first year as a physical therapist, I was a patient. So as you can imagine, that was a huge speed bump in my life. So I don't wish that year on anybody. I had a second surgery a year later to take some of the hardware out, but a lot of the long rods and some of the cables are staying in for, as I say, the duration, hopefully. And hopefully that's 100 years, so we'll see. Yeah, that was a major speed bump and completely changed my life. I was engaged at the time to my now wife, and we, they go through better or worse. We went through the worst before we got married, and I was still on a cane when we walked down the aisle. So that was an amazing thing, but got through it. That was almost 25 years ago. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. And so how'd you get through it? What was the hardest part about that?
The
Outside
hardest
of being in a car accident, right?
Yeah. The hardest part, it was a curse, but it was also a blessing in what I went through. And you can look back on it and say that now, because I went through all the really challenging rehab and as a patient, and, the doctors see you, and as you're doing better and better and your fractures are healing, and, they put an x-ray up and they say, oh, look what a good job I did. And, and they're saying you're doing well. And the second surgery, I did better, and I returned back to work, and I would be what's called healed. But you find this, and now I'm a person who was an ex-college athlete in decent shape, as a physical therapist, work with the stuff all the day, positive mindset. But I went through a 7-year span pretty much where I had chronic pain. Now I was healed. My fractures were healed and all my injuries were healed. But what happens with very often people that are involved in severe accidents like this, or have other diagnoses where it's chronic back pain, or, different diagnoses that you can have. And some people have these in their 20s too, that, I had chronic pain for 7 years. And for me, it was challenging because you'd have days where you were okay, but there was a good amount of time where I was treating patients that were coming to me to alleviate their pain. And I was in more pain than most of my patients. I would never tell them that, but that's kind of the way it was. And it was over those 7 years and towards the end of those 7 years where I had the aha mindset, the aha moment of what got me to focus on what I'm focusing on today, and what I'm basically bringing my message out to the world about, which is, your mindset is everything.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear just what mindset helped you, or what mindset really developed in those 7 years. But I can imagine, just for my audience, I can imagine though, the empathy that you could have as a physical therapist with your patients, because you had similarly was going through the same thing, and you still, still the empathy that you can connect with your patients. because you've been there.
Yeah. And yeah, it's true. It is like you try, they teach you in school too, try not to be empathetic or tell a patient, oh, I understand how you feel, where a lot of
Right.
times you don't. Well, in this case, I still don't say that, but in this case, they do understand that I understand. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, because of what I went through, and they understand, that I see where they're coming from. And if they've been in this chronic pain state, that I understand that. And it does help me it helps me in the fact that I can see it helps them when they see I've come through it. And the fact that I've had chronic pain, and then you can get to a point where you don't have chronic pain. Because very often people, or they're having any challenges, whether it's chronic pain or they're having stress, anxiety, overwhelm, they're stuck in a cycle that they just feel like they can't get out of mindset wise, and they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. They're like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, whether it's just a funk that they're in, whether they're having other problems, whether they're having problems in a relationship, problems at work, problems with their family. You're like, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And what happens is you start to perseverate on the pain, whether that pain is physical, whether that pain is emotional, whether that pain is stress, anxiety, overwhelm. We get trapped there and we don't know how to get out of it. And that's the challenge.
Right.
That's the challenge when you're there.
Yeah. That is interesting. So what, I mean, that is, because we tend to then, all right, how do I just alleviate, put the Band-Aid on, and we don't actually fix the problem. So what led to you? I mean, what were some of I think the big question I'd love to hear is just really what mindset really helped you grow in that what mindset did you grow in those 7 years? But also, like, all right, what were the practical things that you did that you learned that was actually helped your craft and helped your body?
Yeah. So for me, and this is because I know I allude to mindset, and you're like, well, how'd you actually do it? That's a bunch of malarkey if you're not actually saying, oh, it's just your mindset. Well, for me, the aha moment came from when I actually had this episode finally kind of in that 7th year where, like I said, there were days where I had bad days and okay days. And there was one day when I went out to my car, to go to work, and it was a bad day, and my back went into spasm and my hip was killing me, and I couldn't move, couldn't get out, couldn't step on the gas pedal to go to work. And and my wife who's a therapist, had to pull me back into the house, and I called in sick. And I don't call in sick. Anybody who knows me knows I am always at work, barring a flu or corona or COVID or anything else. But I go to work. So the fact that I had to take a day off, and I finally said, enough is enough. I started kind of delving into, pain management science, psychology, personal development, self-growth, reading everything from, the greats of Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, the Bible, Buddha, Lao Tse Zong, all these, everything you could to find any information out that would help me to improve myself and get myself past this chronic pain. And what I finally noticed is that over, let's say, a 6-month span, I started feeling better. And I couldn't attribute it to any treatment plan that changed, and I couldn't attribute it to medication that changed. There wasn't this magic treatment that I got that all of a sudden healed me. What it was my change in my focus. So instead of focusing on pain, which is what we're all trapped into,
right,
what you have to focus on is, again, what you want. And a lot of times people will say, and it sounds like simple, and how can that work? But over time, it's as simple as that, and it works. Don't focus on your pain, or don't focus on what you don't want, which is the cycle that we all get trapped into. It's focus on what you want. And that comes down to 1, your focus, 2, your clarity on what you want. And once you get clarity on what you want, then your brain starts to work on solutions to attain your goals, to reach your goals, to reach what you want, as opposed to, I have pain, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I have anxiety. Where the only thing Napoleon Hill said, your brain gives you back more of whatever you focus on most during your day. So if you focus on pain, you focus on stress, you go focus on overwhelm, what do you get more of? You get more pain, more focus, more stress, more overwhelm. And we get caught in these cycles that we literally can't stop. But all of a sudden, if you start to say, okay, enough is enough, let me stop. What do I want? What do I want to focus on? And then you say, because if you focus on pain, you get more pain. If you focus on, let's say, your wellness, if we're talking about people with pain, if I set goals for what do I want to accomplish, not just say, oh, I want to be out of pain, because that just tells your brain, has your brain focus on
Right.
pain.
Become what
I
you
want
behold.
to
Yeah.
be well. I want to be well. I want to walk I walk 5 miles, 3 times a week by this date in, 3 months from now. And then all of a sudden, if you set that as a goal, then what does your brain do? Well, your brain starts to solve the problem you ask it. So if you ask your brain a question that says, I want to do this by this date, well, then you start to go to work on the solutions to that. And you will then work on the steps that you need to do to reach that goal. But if you focus on pain, you focus on stress, you focus on anxiety, that's all you're going to get. The challenge is to break that cycle, because it's hard to see it when you're stuck there. It's hard to see that you need to change your focus when you're stressed out all day. When you go to bed thinking about stress and you wake up thinking about stress, and you go to bed thinking about, oh my God, I'm not going to get all it done. How can I get everything I need to do done?
Yeah.
Or I'm in pain when I go to bed, or I'm in pain when I wake up. How am I going to get out of this pain? So all you're focusing on is negative, negative, negative. So your brain just gives it back to you and you're stuck in this cycle. But if you can break that cycle and start to say, okay, what do I need to do? What do I want? What's my clarity? So if you get clarity, then you can start to, move forward and focus on what your goals are.
Yeah.
But very often people who are stuck in that cycle don't have goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, they're just so consumed with the pain. So it's all about, how do I stop having pain?
Yeah.
So how do you,
and the pain doesn't always have to be physical. Very often, it's, especially, yes, I went through this traumatic accident from, traumatic injuries from a car accident, but it's everyday stress that we all go through. It's in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, whatever transitions we're going through in our life, it's those stresses that we're dealing with. And again, if you focus on not having a job, your brain just focuses on not having a job. So you can't see the light of, I get a job by this date. Well, then you go to work on what you have to do to get a job by that date. And then you start to move, forward. It's simple, but it's challenging. You know what I mean? So if it was, like they say, if working out was so easy, everybody would have a six pack and we'd all look, we'd all be on the beach showing off our guns,
Right,
but
exactly.
It's a challenge. So it's, it's a challenge for people to do. Right.
So speaking of that mindset is so powerful. And I'm just wondering, how have you applied that mindset outside of just addressing chronic pain and physical therapy? Yeah.
Well, what I notice with my patients, very often with many of my patients, is that they had this same mindset challenge. They would come in and they would say these things that I'm showing as like these, red neon signs that you'd see on people's forehead. Mark, I've always had pain. I have pain now, and nothing you're going to do is going to help me. And I'm like, Mrs. Jones, you're right. Nothing I'm going to do is going to help you if that's what you believe.
Yeah.
And what you find is that, yes, it's with the chronic pain patient, but it's also in your relationships at home. It's in every aspect that you have in your life during your day. You walk into a grocery store, you walk into the convenience store, you talk to the person at the cashier's desk. Do you have a positive interaction with them, or do you have a negative interaction with them? And it all comes back to your mindset. Because if you start the day off starting like, oh, I'm all stressed, here comes another crappy day. Well, guess what? Every interaction that you have with people during your day, whatever aspect it is, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, your, the cashier, whoever it is, you're going to have a negative interaction with them because your focus is on the negative, and you're strapped in this cycle. There's what I call a negative mindset loop that you can't break, because if you have negative mindset and negative beliefs about yourself, you're going to have negative actions. Negative actions done repetitively are going to give you negative habits. Negative habits are going to give you what? Negative results. So the difference is if you can change that to say, okay, focus and clarity on what I want, have what I call as a positive, proactive mindset, then that changes your beliefs and your thoughts about yourself. Positive thoughts lead to positive actions lead to positive habits lead to positive results. And that's the cycle. And it is just as simple as like reframing your mindset, reframing what your beliefs are and what your thoughts about yourself, going from a negative to a positive. The people who are truly in that dark, dark place where they're stuck there and they can't get out, they're stuck there and they're not ready to see that. But a lot of people, people that are watching your podcast, people that are watching my podcast, they're already seeking it out. That awareness is there. So they're ready to listen.
Yeah.
So when all of a sudden they hear this, they hear the right thing from the right person at the right time, boom, it changes their life. And because all of a sudden they realize, oh my goodness, I didn't see it before. And then all of a sudden they start to think about positive actions. They start to have positive thoughts about themselves. They set goals for what they want. They get clarity on that. And then everything starts to change. It's a pretty cool thing when you see somebody all of a sudden have their aha moment that you had years ago. And it changed my life. And it started in my 20s when that happened to me,
Yeah. That's such a cool thing to want to reproduce, right? The
Oh,
aha moment, right?
Yeah.
Or
That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's so good. I lost my thought, Mark, but
That's okay.
yeah, it was something. Oh yeah, that, it's interesting. Just you were talking about pain, how really pain. I don't know if you had this experience as human beings. Do we generally just learn? We mostly learn if that's all we learn from is from pain. Of learning how to actually grow and learn when there's a pain point. And kind of my question is, especially since my audience is mostly in their 20s or 30s, and some are probably stepping into some chronic pain, some probably do, but for the most part, but what is maybe some of your advice for those you can do before you start having those ailments later in life? What is something that maybe you would, somebody to live a more healthy life later in life, what can they start doing now?
Yeah. For me, as from both the physical therapist and the mindset guy, I would say, as you hear this a lot, but it's true, is not only focus on, let's say, exercise, would say, hey, a physical therapist would say, make sure you're exercising and eating right, but it's body, mind, and spirit, so really, even more importantly, they say body, mind, and spirit. It really should be mind, spirit, body, or spirit, mind, body. Yeah. Because if your mindset is right and you get your mindset right, then doing the things that are right for your body will come easier. Right. Because if let's say somebody's overweight and they're 50 pounds overweight and they were in shape, but they've lost that shape and the doctor tells them they need to lose weight. And they say, start this program. Unless that person's mindset is right, it's going to fail. They're not going to be able to do it. They're going to see that, which is why the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, because everybody can lose 10 pounds. And then what happens? You go back to your old habits and you go back and you go back and you go up and down like that. And it's true what they say about the only true way to make a lasting difference in your life is to make lifestyle changes. And the lifestyle changes start with your mindset. Because if the doctor tells you to lose weight, yep, I'll lose 15 pounds by, in a month and I'll be fine. My numbers will be better. But then you go back to the same habits that you did, and then the weight comes back, and then you have the same issues. And there's one of my favorite quotes is, if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always be what you've always been. So if you want to see different results than what you've been getting, you have to do things differently than how you've been doing them. Right. So if I were to say, to ensure that you're going to have lasting improvements with your health, with your body, with your mind, is over time, get clarity on what you want and improve your mindset, and the body will follow.
Yeah, that's good. Clarity of what you want. That's interesting. And sometimes it's just living that's kind of, it's figuring that out. That's interesting. Yeah. So more, what's, so yeah, give me a little, just, this is what I was curious about. So because Awaken Your Wellness. I mean, if anybody's watching this, you can see that's behind it. And you can find Mark at awakenyourwellnessnow.com. Find out more about him. And I'll, at the end, Mark, I'll let you give a more plug about what you're doing. But I'm curious. It sounds like when we're talking about spirit, mind, and body, you have a more holistic view towards wellness. But how do you define wellness?
For me, again, the wellness is focusing on body, body, mind and spirit. And again, not just in that order. It's focusing on wellness in all aspects of your life. So, if I were to say, what is wellness? For me, the wellness would be defined as your ability to, with your body, mind, and spirit, be able to reach the goals that you've set for yourself. Because very often what happens is with our wellness, over time, whether it's stress, anxiety, out of shape, whatever that is, it's a malalignment with what our clarity is, and we don't know what we want. So it comes back to your mindset and focusing on overall, because wellness is a series of choices. And if we want to make the right healthy choices over the time, and that starts with your mindset.
That's good. So yeah, I mean, now that you've kind of come out of chronic pain from that injury and you're living life, and I think most of your kids are out of the house, how would you define what you want now that you're out of pain? What is something that motivates you to live more wellness and health these days?
Yeah, for me, it's being as healthy as I can so that I can be there for my children and future generations, until hopefully, someday my grandchildren, and then and have a long, healthy life. And luckily I've been there's been longevity in my family, and hopefully that continues. And but it's also too, I'm in a transition myself. I've been a physical therapist for 25 years, but I'm also looking to expand. And I've been speaking on the topic of what I call motivational wellness over the last 15 to 20 years, and bringing this message out to the world, to as many people as possible. And I've really focused on now making that one of my primary focuses in my working life too. So I'm actually looking forward to the next 10 or 15 or 20 years of bringing my message out to the world, whether it's through online courses, through videos that I do on YouTube, doing keynote talks to different organizations. It's really bringing my message out of awakening your mind and enhancing your focus, so that you can really reach all the goals that you want and get where you want in life, so that you see a difference in your life. And then that's really what drives me every day, is to bring this message out to the world, because it's exciting. It makes such a difference in my life, and I'm seeing it make a difference in many of the lives that I come in contact with. And it's exciting. If you can, like I said, if I can help one person, let's say one person a day, or one person a week, or 1,000 people a year, and the possible reach for this is amazing. Like when I'm treating patients, I love it, because I know 95% of the time, everybody that sees me for treatment is leaving me feeling better. But when I'm with them, it's one-on-one. But with the ability to have this, online platform, it even gets me more jazzed that I may be able to help tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of people in the future across the globe. Even now, it's not even, it's not just on my treatment table. I could bring it to somebody in Australia. I could bring it to somebody in Norway. I could bring it to somebody in California. And that makes me extremely excited, because why not help as many people as you can?
Yeah, that's good. So Mark, I just, I got a curious question, since you're, your career's been in physical therapy, and, for the critics out there, what would be your plug for physical therapy, and why, somebody would need it who's in pain?
Oh, please. Physical therapy. Absolutely. Physical therapy is, I think it's well needed. It focuses on enhancing people's lives as far as what's going on physically with their limitations. And let's say somebody has a limitation in their back. Well, a physical therapist is going to evaluate them fully and look at their mechanical, their neuromuscular, their motor control issues, and any imbalances that they have in their system. And so, when you're doing a quality evaluation, you're looking at all those aspects of what's going on, and it's imbalances of our lives. Imbalances of our musculoskeletal system. And what we can do as a physical therapist is help kind of guide them. We're facilitators to help nudge their body to do what it should be doing on its own, but it's lost its way. So we're expediters, we're facilitators. We're guiding the body to do what it should do, but it's lost its way. So we kind of nudge them in the right direction, and not only help them mechanically with what we can do with our hands, but then teach them what they can do for home. Because it's all about, really, after they've left me, well, how do they continue with this? How do they make, like we said, just like with your mindset, how do you make lifestyle changes? How do you make changes in your life that you're more efficient? I always tell patients, I don't want to just get you out of pain. I want to make you have a healthier, more efficient lifestyle moving forward and into your next decades, so that this is just not, oh, my ankle pain's gone or my back pain's gone. It's like, wow, I've never been the same. I've never been more healthier since I've had physical therapy.
Yeah. So essentially you're trying to work yourself out of a job.
Yes, I am. I absolutely am.
That's
Well,
good.
I've been in it for 25 years too, and it's a manual job. It's actually a manual job. It's not like, I have a lot of I'm impressed by people who work a heavy duty manual job, whether it's construction or all different things. But I've been doing hands-on work on people's bodies for 10 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day, sometimes for 25 years. And so I am trying to work myself out of that manual job and focusing more on the mindset and less on my hands. But I'll always be thankful for these that I've been worked with for 25 years.
Yeah, that's good. That's great, Mark. Well, Mark, I mean, I guess last thing, yeah, just tell us more about your course and what you're doing, where people can find you.
Okay. One thing though, I always like to leave people with a tip. All right.
Yeah,
So this
please do.
is a quick tip, and it's a mindset tip. I call it my 4M mindset method. So if any of your viewers, anybody is looking at this, if they're having stress, overwhelm, pain, and not necessarily the mechanical pain that I went through, or just the pain, emotional pain, it's what I call the 4M mindset. And the first M is make the choice, not make a choice, but make the choice to become aware of what you have going on and know that you're going to make a difference right now in your life. So like if you're stressed and overwhelmed today, so the first M is make a choice. The second M is make a list. So the list is quickly, just write out for yourself on this list, say, okay, what are the things that I have to do today? And let's say 24 to 48 hours. What are the things I have to do and have to get done? Because sometimes we're overwhelmed by all the things that we have to do. The second list of these three lists is, what can I move off to the later phase? What can I get done next week? You're almost pushing that list off. So it's, what do I have to get done immediately? What can I push off to either 4 days from now or next week? And the third list is almost the most important list, is what do I have no control over? I write down the things that I don't have control over, whether it's in my mindset, whether it's the way somebody thinks about me and I'm worried about it. And guess what? I cross that list out. And that's the list that will hopefully decrease the stress. And then the first list will get you focused on what you have to do today. The third M is make a plan. So you can't just make make a list or just set a goal and nothing, and all of a sudden it magically gets done. You have to actually make the plan to decide what actions you have to take to get those things that you need to get done to make that list happen. And the fourth M is to make a schedule, because you can plan it out, but if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. So that's going to help you to get less focused on the stress and the anxiety and more focused on boom, 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 boom. This is what I have to do today. This is what I have to do tomorrow. And then that list moves forward from there. So that's one of those things that it's, again, the 4M is make the choice, make a list, those three lists. What do I need to do today? What can I push off? What are the things I don't have control of that I'm going to get rid of? Then you make a plan, and then you make a schedule. 4M. All right. The places that people can see me are at awakenyourwellnessnow.com/blog. And if they want to sign up for my email list, they'll get a free video course called 5 Steps to Focus and Move Forward and Get Results. They can see me, Mark Marino PT, on my Instagram, and my Facebook is Awaken Your Wellness Now.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah, I recommend, checking all, I mean, just that little tip, those 4 makes. That's interesting, Mark. Yeah, I wrote them down. I was like, dang, I might have to do that today. So thank you.
There you go.
And I definitely recommend, I mean, I follow Mark on Instagram, and I recommend all his stuff, but just on Instagram, he gets some really good hits on those mindsets, because it really is. I mean, that's something we all need, is a better mindset, especially if we know we want, we want to get there. So Mark, I appreciate you coming on. This is a blast. And so thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love catching up with you, and I'm, appreciate you taking the time to be with me.
Absolutely.